Hello everybody, my name is Crafts, but you can call me Maya because, you know, that's my legal government name. Um, and today is going to be a sit and knit, and I'm going to walk through what I've been working on currently. Now last Monday, I actually started this sweater, and we walked through kind of how to design, how to get started, what you need, what you need to focus on, writing out like an actual, like starting to write out an actual design, trying to figure out your math, so on and so forth. And I'll go over a little bit of that today in my composition notebook, my very adultly colored composition notebook. But yeah, so and I've also got, as a special treat for everybody, sort of a WIP roundup, and it's like really embarrassing. I also have the video, the VOD, for whenever I did my gauge swatch and my cast on and all of my math and everything up on my YouTube. So if you guys want to see that, that's on YouTube. But we started this last week, and I think we literally got to like the cast on. I think after like 3.5 hours between gauge swatching, tracing a kitten, and kind of explaining everything, I think literally we got to casting on. And I realized after the fact, after I had casted on, that I had actually not inherently done it wrong, but that I wouldn't be able to work at any waist shaping because I had started my cast on from the same count I needed for my full bust. And so instead of being able to add stitches as I went to give it more of this like conical shape, more of a conical shape. Hopefully you guys can see that. This shape. I actually started from basically the exact amount of stitches I needed for the full bust, which meant that I couldn't add stitches, and if I had taken stitches out instead of going like this, it would have went like this, which I don't look like that. I look like the reverse of that. So maybe for, you know, if that's your bag or that's the shape that you like, you can make it like that. I wasn't going to. So I've actually just been knitting straight. I actually got, I decreased a little bit at the very like beginning. I can't even tell you where. Somewhere in here-ish probably. But I decreased on both sides by a total of 4 stitches. So I would have a little bit of a kind of push almost, or like a little bit of wiggle room in the band and the ribbing. And so since last Monday, I have managed to put on something like, I think 8 inches. So we started with our, last Monday was the cast on, and then now it's 8 inches. And we did 3 inches of twisted rib, 1 by 1 twisted. Excuse me. 1 by 1 twisted rib. And then we've just been knitting straight stockinette, and I'm actually using 2 different yarns. This is just a refresher, I'm sure everyone remembers, but I'm actually using 2 completely different yarns. One is much like softer and a much like more charcoaly gray, almost like blue undertones, it looks like to me. And then the other one is this like kettle washed black with deep black and dark gray, light gray, and even a couple of like little white spots from whatever they were dyeing it, because kettle dyeing, much like kettle chips, you end up with a whole different array of textures and colors and variations and so on. So I'm doing helical knitting for this, and helical knitting is really, really cool. If you don't know anything about it, this might not be the perfect venue to learn about it. My laptop wasn't plugged in. I was like, why is it yelling at me? It wasn't plugged in. I'm a very genius woman. But I can show you an example of helical knitting, and it's super cool. It's how I have always done my in the round knitting if I'm using 2 different balls. Now normally I'm using 2 different balls of the same color. This is a true stretch, and like you can see there's a little bit of like unique pooling, right? How it like almost goes up like that. But again, this is a cat sweater. It's based on what a cat's coat actually looks like. So I ain't bothered. and it's going to be cute as hell. So I don't think anybody's going to be like, girl, what is that? Like, don't be bothered. If you don't like the way something looks, you can rip it out and fix it. But if it's genuinely like, oh no, I don't want people to judge me because my sweater has pooling in it. Like 99% of the people you encounter don't know what knitting is, okay? They don't know what, colorways are. They couldn't explain anything to you. If you go to a knitting convention or a show or an event or whatever it is, or knit night, and somebody wants to say something to you, just be like, well, Nancy, show me what you're working on. You know what I mean? Don't be hard on yourself if something is pooling a little bit. I used to be really hard on myself. I used to rip stuff out all the time and like snip balls and like come back in the middle, and it was a whole thing. It was a whole huge like perfectionist mess that made the whole process not as much fun. So I don't, just have fun. If you're having fun, you're doing the right thing. That's how I see it. So what helical knitting is I've gone on my rant about how to have fun or the importance of having fun. I'm actually going to turn my work around so you guys can see it. So we have our 2 strands, but do you see how they're not like at the very beginning of my round, which is, where is it? Here. So my Gomez stitch marker that I also made last week, and this is also, the VOD for this is also on YouTube. It might actually still be up because I'm pretty sure I did it Thursday, and today is Monday, and they go away after 7 days. I don't know what this motion was. I'm sorry. Sorry to everybody involved. But I made him last Thursday. He turned out really cute. If y'all don't know, Gomez is the kitten we've been fostering. We're big fans. We love him a lot, but he will probably be going to a new home tonight. So fingers crossed that works out and he has a wonderful time and makes lots of new friends. But basically the way that helical knitting works is it's a helix. I know, controversial yet brave statement, but when you knit in the round, you're making a round, you're making a circle. And so instead of meeting at the very beginning, right? At the very beginning of our round, and having a jog, because you would be pulling one yarn over the other, the concept is you get to a certain number of stitches right before your new thread, and then you just pick up those stitches and go with your new thread. And I know that sounds deeply confusing, and I like to leave extra stitches kind of at the very beginning, but it will make more sense as we go along, I promise. So let me show you. You're knitting in the round, you go around, you go around, you go around, and once I get to this thread right here, that you guys can hopefully see very well, this thread right here, I'm gonna pick up these 3 stitches. I'm gonna leave them unworked, so I'm gonna move them from the left-hand needle to the right-hand needle. I'm gonna take this thread and I'm just gonna keep working my round. If that's hard to conceptualize, don't worry. I'm gonna show you. I am here. I am looking out for you. So, and of course everything is a nice big mess right now because you can't have 2 balls of yarn without them tangling around each other and making you want to rip your eyeballs out. It's actually illegal, so not going to knitting jail today. But yeah, so we're just gonna knit all the way around. Not very exciting, not very fun for anybody. I know, I am sorry, but, and this is what's so fun about this, or what I enjoy about like straight stockinette. It's so potato chippy. You don't have to think about anything. You don't have to worry about anything. I don't even look at my work half the time when I'm just knitting straight stockinette. I will be watching a movie or listening to a podcast or reading something. Like, you don't even need to look at it 90% of the time. And I know that we talked a little bit about this last time, but if you haven't seen that video, or you weren't here for the stream, or blah 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 blah, or you don't believe in YouTube, which some people don't apparently, which I find insane. But we're doing our sweater on US 2 for the ribbing, US 4 for the body, and we're using fingering weight yarn for both, right? And that's for the body. So basically the way this is gonna work, and let me see if I can actually find the thing I had that I drew it on. so here's my conceptual design. I don't want to wear anybody out actually, because I'm still working on the other two. But I have this long twisted rib at the bottom. I'm a horrible, like, I can't draw. I'm not an artist. You're never going to catch me on the art streams because that's not who I am. But we have this 3 inches of twisted rib. I had to think about those words. And then the body itself, I'm planning on doing just stockinette, right? And this is all going to be in the same yarn, this fabric. And then I'm going to get to the kind of the top, like right above where the break for the armpit is. So whenever you like would break through the sleeves, if you've never knit a sweater before and I'm talking gibberish at you, I do apologize. And then I'm going to start incorporating mohair. But whenever you work a front and a back after you've been working in the round, what you do is you work all the way up, and then I'll get to the underarm here, and instead of working in the round, I start working back and forth. So you start working flat once you get to the underarms. And so working flat for the underarms, I'm planning on putting little kitty ears right above the boobs, naturally, right above the boobs, and then everything else I'm planning on knitting back and forth. I'm planning on using black mohair, which I have. My thought there is that I'll probably double up the mohair. I haven't actually figured out like what I want or how I want it to look yet. Again, this is all very experimental so that you guys can see how the process works and not just like, oh, here's a perfect example of how this would work and here's how you should do it. Like, no, this is about the whole experiment of the process and about trying new things. But my plan is anytime you have to work back and forth or anytime you have to move from body to front back, you go from in the round to flat knitting. And hopefully we can figure that one out and it goes swimmingly, right? And if not, there's a lot of lesson in failure. We're all gonna be okay. So yeah, I'm just gonna keep knitting and knitting and knitting across. Ooh, girl, calm down. I'm also a thrower, which I mentioned last time. I know a lot of people pick, but this is just how I learned. I can pick. It's not really an issue. It just doesn't feel as natural because my left hand is not a dominant hand. It's not a particularly strong hand either, so it is what it is, I guess. We all have our cross to bear. Mine is that I'm not as good knitting with my left hand. Oh no. But I try to keep it kind of consistent because, you know, this is all part of your gauge, your tension, all of it. So the reason you get gauge and the reason you should do a gauge swatch, I know that like, it's so funny. I feel like there are two camps. There are people who are like, it's blasphemous not to do gauge. And then there are people that are like, I know I should do a gauge swatch. I'm not going to. And honestly, both sides are equally right and wrong. There's wrong people on both sides. But there are certain things that like, I don't bother. Like if I'm knitting a mitten or a sock, I'm not gonna do a gauge swatch. I'll tell you right now, I'm very aware of like what my tension is when I knit those things because I've knitted them several times, so I'm not worried about it. But for a sweater or a garment, for something that needs movement, something that's going to be on your body, heating up and swaying with you and moving with you, and that you want a particular look on, yes, you need to get a gauge swatch. You need to get gauge. I've knitted projects before and been like, I'm actively not going to do what this pattern says because I want it to look different. Or I've been like, this is a DK weight pattern. I want it in fingering. Time to do some math. It is what it is. Also, oh my goodness, are you seeing this? Are you seeing like what a mess this is? LOL. Let me see if I can wind some of this back in. But what I was going to say before my yarn so rudely interrupted me. Good Lord. Was that I'm impressed at how well, and I know it's because it's small and extremely tight, or I've made it extremely tight. I didn't use any Mod Podge on this, and like it bends and maneuvers, and like you can see it bending and maneuvering, right? But it really just, it's holding up great. Normally I would not Mod Podge something like this if I wanted to make sure that I wasn't gonna like bend or snap or anything like that. But this one's been holding up really well. I probably will for like longevity at this point, but I'm not worried about it. I don't think it's gonna like come apart anytime soon, and I don't need it to be super flat. I know this is taking forever to get to my point about helical knitting, so I am sorry. Sorry to everybody involved. But yeah, you can see how like you're getting such a beautiful variation in the yarn. And as y'all recall, possibly, from my gauge swatch, look at how much tighter this weave is than it was whenever you could completely see through it last time. Whenever I was using the 5s, and that's part of what I was talking about, is like you need to try and figure out like how you want your fabric to look, and the gauge swatch is very good for that, because there's no way to know if you've never worked with a yarn in particular. There's no way to know how your fabric's gonna look. Even yarns I've used before in different colorways have given me different results, and I think that's insane, but it's very true. So, or if you try a different base, even if you try it from the same dyer. My last test knit, the 40 Love for Chase Harpole, which is gorgeous, by the way. My last test knit, I actually used 2 different bases of the exact same yarn from the same dyer, but on 2 different DK bases, one much thinner and one much thicker. And that's how I got gauge, because the pattern itself is labeled as DK, but the yarn he used, again labeled as DK, worked up as more of a sport. And so I was like, well, I have one that is a sport like DK, and then I have another one that's like a true DK. And so I think between them and going up a needle size, I can get gauge, and I did. And it turned out freaking gorgeous. And my husband stole it. He didn't steal it. I made it for him. But every time I test anything for Chase, my husband usually ends up with it. Like, even if I make it for myself, it almost always looks better on him, or is cuter on him, or he loves the colors, so I give it to him. Like, I don't know, I think I've made one thing from Chase that I've held on to myself, and that was the first thing I made. And then my husband went and made one for himself as well, because he liked it so much. So I'm not even sure that one counts. I mean, if he copied me after the fact, does that count? All right, so like I promised, we're coming up to our separation here, right? Our second thread, our second yarn. I'm gonna get to 3 stitches, so I just need to knit these next 3, and hopefully you guys can see this really well, right? And you see these 3 stitches right here and how the thread comes out of them. I'm going to move them from the left hand needle to the right hand needle, and then I'm just going to go with the new thread. That's really the whole process. That's really it. I just go into all 3 because I'm savage. I'm sure they're like, you don't do that. Some people do stitch by stitch, and that's good for them. But I'm not those people. I'm worse people. I also was under the impression I was going to have a new emote in my thing, in my... What are you doing? But I can't see it. I can't see my... I can't see Frank if I have him. I made a little emote of, or well, my husband helped me make a little emote of. Oh, there he is. I just can't see him in mine. That's so weird. Let me try my OBS chat and see if it works. It's not giving me anything. I think I can hear Gomez outside. Oh look, my forehead's nice and shiny today. I'm glowing actually. But yeah. So helical knitting is literally just that. And please ignore the fact that my needle is bent. I ran my computer chair over it. Like years ago. So it's a little bendy here. So there we go. We have our thread we were just working with, our yarn we were just working with. We have our new yarn, and then we have 3 stitches between the two. There are no holes. So basically how this works is that it's been carrying across as you go up from where I started, which was, where's the beginning of my round? Was here. So I've made almost a full round back to the beginning of my round, which is where, but this is where I started. And you can see at the bottom, I know where it is because I know where the string is. I know where the beginner, like where my extra thread was when I added the second string. But once I weave that in, it's like right there. But once I weave that in, you won't be able to tell. You're not gonna know. No one's gonna know. How will they know? They're gonna know. They're not gonna know. Literally no one is gonna know. No one's gonna have any idea. So you're welcome. But yeah, this is how I avoid pooling normally when I'm working with the same color. It's how I avoid having a jog in my pattern. So some people don't carry 2 balls of yarn or don't split their yarn. You don't have to carry 2 balls of yarn. Like some people are, I don't know why I keep bringing up some people. I don't know them. Actually, I do know. I know a lot of people that do this. But some people feel like they have to have 2 completely different balls of yarn. I will pull from the inside and the outside of the same ball of yarn and do helical knitting. You don't have to have 2 balls of yarn. People who shall not be named is absolutely correct. Them, the universal overarching them, the oversoul of them. But you absolutely don't have to have 2 different balls of yarn. I have known people in test knits especially, because they really are like very particular about the way that they want things to look, who will break all of their balls of yarn into 2 balls so that they don't have to, so they can have as many kind of in play as they want. So if they have an issue with one and they start seeing like a lot of pooling, instead of pulling from another ball and theoretically having the same problem, they'll break balls down into like two balls of yarn per like hank basically. It's extra, and I'm tired of saying balls, so stop stop asking me to say balls. No one asked, but I'm just letting you know. But yeah, you can pull from the same ball, you can pull from separate balls. I'm pulling from 2 different ones because I have 2 completely different balls of yarn, or 2 completely different hanks. And this is it. You don't have to upset anything. You don't have a jog in your yarn. I used to do it the traditional way where you would just like do a round, pick up your next color, do a round, pick up your next color, and you end up with this jog on the side of your yarn. And like no matter how good your tension is, you're still pulling your thread up and over. So instead of like this, where you're just picking it up as you go, you're pulling it up. So you're making this step in your knitting. You're making this like ladder almost. And so it's easier to do the helical knitting because it's not upsetting the natural fabric that you've created. Lots of words to say nothing. I apologize. But I'm a big fan of helical knitting. It's how I do basically everything whenever it comes to knitting a sweater, knitting in the round, really. If I'm not making something that I think I only need one skein for, one skein for, skein sounds right. Skein sounds righter than skein. Then this is how I do it. And I learned my lesson on not doing this, actually. Skein. I learned my lesson on not doing this on another test net, ironically, where I like kept pulling. So not only does it keep you from having a jog, it also alters where you have what yarn as you go. So it does kind of go in the round. And there are times I've used yarn and helical knitting has actually made pulling worse because of just how the particular yarn was dyed. And that was a time I definitely had to like break up a ball more than I would have liked. To do a lot more work than I would have liked. But for the most part, it's how I do everything if I want to avoid a ton of pooling, or I want to avoid, like in these kettle dyed, especially with a kettle dyed yarn, like it just, and even here you're still getting a little bit of pooling. Like the kettle dyed yarns are very difficult to get consistency and like variation. So consistent variation, which is a oxymoron, I think, actually, now that I'm saying the words out loud. But kettle dyed yarn is extremely difficult to work with and get anything kind of close to consistent, because it itself is not dyed in a consistent way. It's just thrown at the wall and seeing what happens. But yeah, I think we've got something like 8 inches in now. What is more consistent than kettle dyed? Literally anything. Tonals, certain skeins of like, as my husband would say, variegated yarn. I always say variegated, but he says variegated because he's fancy. But yeah, striped yarns. I actually really love a good striped yarn. I actually have, or self-striping, not striped yarn, self-striping yarn. That's what I meant to say. So I actually have a pretty good collection of like self-patterning and self-striping sock yarn and sock tubes, because your girl owns a knitting machine, a sock making machine, a Earl Barker Gerhardt, that is in the closet, may never come back out again. I am the knitting machine. Look at me. I am the knitting machine now. No, I am. It's fair. I did, as I just said, like, it's always very funny to interact with people who don't know anything about knitting, because like, I am really fast. That is a fact. That is a fact of how I work, right? And I do it, I'm fast because I have so much downtime when my hands aren't needed. Like even at work, if I was on a meeting, your girl would be knitting. Like your girl is knitting a lot of the time. I actually find it funny because a lot of people find crochet, oh, I took this fully off screen, I'm sorry, find crochet much more like relaxing than knitting, because it requires so much more focus and they want to be focused on something. I can't do all that because, and I've just recently, just this year actually, gotten back into crochet, which is another set of projects that I'm going to show. But crochet can be more relaxing because it takes the focus. So like knitting can definitely be something that you do in the background that requires, like potato chippy, that's what I was saying earlier. Like I like these kinds of designs, I like doing this kind of work and doing like stockinette because I literally don't have to look at it. I can just work and work and work and it's not a problem. That's so funny. Yes, I am the knitting machine. I was actually worried that my lobster clip was gonna be, or lobster clamp? Lobster, I think it's lobster clip. I think that's what you call it. I was actually worried it was gonna be too small because I've gotten stitch markers before and had them be way too small for the needle I'm using. And that's always super sad, especially if you have something that you're like, oh, I specifically got this for this project because of like how I thought it would look in my mind, or what I wanted, or what I perceived. And so to be making the kitty sweater with my kitty stitch marker based on my real life kitty is rad. It's rad that everything worked out the way that I envisioned. We are all learning things today. Hopefully you guys can see this pretty well. We're going to come up to another round on the helical knitting, and I'll show you again. The only annoying part is like if I'm not looking at my knitting, I regularly will like knit right up to this stitch and be like, why is this one stitch so loose? And then I have to like take back my last 2 stitches and pick it all up again. All right, here we go. I'm gonna go around. Okay. And now, wait, did I do that wrong? No, that's the tail. Ugh, see, this is what's so annoying about having a long tail. It just catches things all the time. So, I'll do this stitch by stitch. So we're gonna pick up 1, 2, 3. Kind of tighten them a little to make sure that they're on the needle at the correct tension that you intend to be working at. And then you just knit across. It's not hard. A lot of people feel like, or ask me about it and want to say like, oh, it seems so difficult, it seems so hard, I could never. It's literally the simplest thing in the world, and it's actually much simpler for me as someone who does tend to get lost in her knitting and does tend to like be watching TV or doing something as she's knitting, to help me to remember to switch yarns, because that was another issue I had all the time. I would be working on something, I'd get to the beginning of round and I'd forget to pick up my second ball. This does not allow you to forget. You're definitely gonna notice that your stitches are that your stitch got super loose. You're gonna have to go back, and I'd rather knit back or tink back 2 stitches than tink back several rows. Any day of the week, okay? Any day of the week. And yeah, that's it. That's it for helical knitting. Now, if I can get into some technicality with y'all, not trying to scare anybody, but if I could get into some technicality with y'all, give me 1 second. I also like to, sorry, in case y'all are wondering what this stitch marker is, it's just a random, like, you know, proper bulb stitch marker that lets me know when I'm halfway. So this is the halfway mark for me from the beginning, so that I know I'm halfway through the round. I don't always do this. I thought, once again, until I realized my error, I thought I was going to have to be increasing as I went. So not having to increase as I went, I still left it in place because it was already in there, and it makes me feel more progress, because then I'm like, oh, I'm already halfway through the round. I'll just finish the round. You do not have to do this. I don't even have it in here for any specific reason. At this point, your girl is just all vibes. All vibes, no thoughts today. What's new? I mean, honestly. back to the beginning of my round, and I'm going to show you guys what I'm talking about. Get a little technical, get a little patterny on you, okay? Hope you're ready. I'm glad my bitrate's doing okay. That's part of why I had to start so slow today, or so late, is because my bitrate was just not doing it. Bitrate said, no, girl. All right, almost back to the beginning. And then I'm gonna show you guys some pattern math, theoretically. Or we're gonna discuss some pattern math. Oh, there you are. I was like, what is that feeling? Why is it coming on my shoulder like that? Or my elbow like that? Also, and I know this is silly, but I have like a set number of stitches that I like to knit past my stitch marker. I always knit 4 stitches past unless I'm in a particular pattern, doing a particular pattern like a cable or color work or whatever it is. I try to finish that first like round of whatever it is that I'm trying to do. But if I'm knitting just stockinette, I try to do 4 stitches past my stitch marker because, and there is a tiny bit of psychological hoodoo attached with this. It's because I have found personally that 1 to 2 stitches is not enough. If this does come out, or like it gets messed up in transit or whatever, I put it in my knitting bag and it just gets all wonky jawed. 4 stitches is enough stitches that I'm not going to lose my stitch marker. It's not going to pull all the way out. If it does, we're having a whole different problem. But I do try to keep at least 4 stitches between the stitch marker and wherever it is I stop, and then I try to pull my needles just a little bit to make sure that stitches aren't just going to fall off. I know not everybody does this. I know a lot of people just stop wherever, but this is just like a weird habit I've gotten into, so that because of my extensive experience knitting patterned stitches, things with like texture patterns in them, I've found that this is the ideal amount of stitches for me, so that I don't just lose a whole chunk of something in the middle. I'm sure this is all psychological and made up and in my head, so feel free to make fun of me. All right, where am I going to put you while I talk about the other stuff? I'll put you right here. And I want to show you guys, don't judge me. I'm a mess, but don't judge me. This is my Republica Unicornia bag. I love her. I love Republica Unicornia. If you've never gotten any of her yarn or her bags or her notions, or you don't follow her on Instagram, you are missing out. She is a gift. She's a gem. She has cute cats. Honestly, what are you even doing? So she makes amazing bags. I love this bag. It's funny, we have, both my husband and I knit, and we both basically collect her bags. It's like actually kind of a problem. We have 2 of the same little bags that neither one of us ever actually uses, because we don't make small projects. We only make big projects, and he's a big boy, so he needs big sweater bags. It's not a big deal. And it's like always so pretty, and like the lining, you can't really see it in this lighting, but the lining fabric has like metallic foily gold. It's so cute. And she has she actually adds little stitch markers to your bag. It's got a handle. I have abused. This has been on every trip. Big bag boy. But this has been on I think almost, if not this, then one of her bags has been on almost every single trip I think I've ever taken since I started knitting. Her and Tanny Casey, they make two of my favorite bags. I don't know how to tell anyone in the knitting community about Tanny Casey. Tanny Casey's amazing. She makes gorgeous, large, waxed canvas bottomed bags. Everyone knows who Tanny Casey is. But both of them make my favorite bags, partially just because her prints are so good. Like, everything she uses, it's just so good. It's just stuff you'd never see anywhere else. These are the bags nobody else is making. I really want a Black Pearl Magic bag because I love Shayla Black Pearl Magic. I love the unicorns. I think they're so cute. But yeah, not that I need to go into my bag collection history or problem. This is one of the big problems with the knitting community, is we're all actually just dragons. We all just have the dragon sickness, and we all just want to collect everything. But this is my other active knit. Ooh, what did I just say? What did I just say? Do you see that dropped stitch right there? Do you see it? Boom. Picked up. No drop stitches in this house. Oh, okay, bye. And I actually have like leftovers of other projects in here because I just can't. I just store my yarn in my knitting bags. Do I have an entire bookshelf behind me full of yarn? Yes. Do I have bins I could put this yarn in? Also, yes. Do I use those? No, I just store my yarn from my past knitting projects. This is literally from my 40 Love, the one I was just talking about. I'm a professional. I use these colors, and I'm just holding on to them in this bag because this is the bag I use for that project. I'm a very do as I say kind of person. But this is my Rumble Raglan. Let me actually get this kind of, oh my god, what now? Calm down. It's another problem with storing like needles in your bag, is that they'll sort of like lightly stab your yarn and then you can't maneuver it. But this is my Rumble Raglan by her name is completely escaping me now that I have to tell you what it is. Lydia Makes? Something like that? I think it's Lydia Makes. I could be a liar. When I do this, when I post this to YouTube, I will do my best to actually like label out who everybody is and their project. And all of this yarn is from Stash. And I'm actually knitting it because, I'm knitting this project because when I was visiting my sister, she took me to the most incredible vintage shop, and I picked up this just glorious pair of green and white. I don't even know what the pattern you would call it. It's like squares. It's like green and white squares, basically. Not checkered, because it's just like lines that make squares. And it's almost exactly this color, this like light green color. And this really isn't doing it justice. It's kind of washing it out a little bit because this is like a much brighter. Oh, I see you found Frank. We did that this weekend. I thought it was great. Did you see what it's called? I can't be trusted. I told you. But yes, hi Katie. But yeah, so I found the most like glorious pants, and they're vintage. I actually have a whole selection of like glorious vintage clothes now because I don't like shopping. So whenever I find something, I kind of freak out and I just buy it because I hate having to shop. It's not my bag. I know a lot of people, despite my dragon sickness and my love of collecting things, I hate having to shop for actual clothes. I don't mind making clothes, but I hate having to shop for actual clothes. So I'm talking about my Rumble Raglan right now that I'm making. And so it's almost exactly this color, but I didn't want this to just be a stripy top with only one color. And I had this like very light, almost like milky matcha green in my stash. It didn't have a label. It didn't, I don't know what it is. I don't even know its weight, honestly. I couldn't even tell you. I don't think it was even a full skein. I think I picked it up from, honestly, I don't even know. I've had it so long I couldn't even tell you. But I couldn't tell you who it's by. I couldn't tell you what it is. Don't know anything about it. The white is like a Knit Picks yarn I've had for 1 billion years. I actually picked this up. No, not really. I've had this one much longer. But I picked the white up to make my Sailor Moon sweaters that I design and make. And then this I had because I was making tube socks. I made hot pink tube socks with white stripes. And they're glorious. Truly. They are fantastic. But I took a break from this because this was all left hand, as I just talked about earlier, this was all left-handed knitting. And also I wasn't sure if it was like kosher for me to be knitting somebody else's paid pattern on stream. I wasn't sure if they'd be comfortable with that, and I didn't want to do that to them. But oh my goodness, what now? And so I figured I'd start my own knit, or start my own pattern, which is how I got this like Gomez kitty top. But yeah, so this is my other current work in progress. I am literally, another reason I didn't want to do this on stream. I actually should. I really should. I should email them and be like, hey, would you be okay with me doing this? I mean, I'm not showing the pattern to anybody. I'm reading it, you know, off camera, obviously. But like, some people get weird about it, and I just don't want to make anyone uncomfortable. Call them on the phone right now. She's in England. That sounds expensive. You know, they're tariffing all those things. They're gonna have tariffs on phone calls soon. Can't call England anymore. Actually, yeah, I think I will. I think I will, like, because I think this is gorgeous, and I think it would be fun to watch it kind of come alive. And like, it looks all like puffy, like it's a little too tight, and then you pull on it, and there's just like, oop, oop, as I knock my own stitches off. See, this is what I was talking about. You gotta have a few stitches past your stitch marker or you're gonna lose them. But I think the pattern, you pull on it and it's just like, oh, actually that's got a ton of give. The worst you can say is no. That is true. And then I'll know. But yeah, so this is one of my current knits that I'm only really knitting off screen. But I have great hope that once I finish it, I really should have just brought the pants in here because they're spectacular. But I have great hopes that once I finish it, it'll be almost an exact match with a little bit of variation in the lighter green. Oh, didn't I say I was gonna show you guys some pattern math, and then I immediately just start talking about other projects because my ADHD brain just can't handle more than one thought at a time. Before I go any further, now that I've already gone too far, I will actually show you guys what I'm talking about. Also, this stuff is the bee's knees. I don't know if y'all can see what that's called, but it's the Knitting Barber Try It On tubing. I have it in orange and blue and I think pink. I'm not sure. We have a few. I love it. It's fantastic. It's great for taking something off the needles and putting onto something like elastic almost and getting a feel for how it's gonna look. So these are our notes from last time. Yeah, we also made 2 of Gomez. He's such a sweet boy. Hopefully you guys can see, but yeah. I thought I was going to be using 3s and 5s. I ended up using 2s and 4s for my needles. And then no idea what the actual weight of this is. But it was a full skein, I know that. And then the mystery fingering weight from Junkyard. No idea what the weight is. No idea what the base is. No idea how much of it I had left. So this is why I'm not writing this up for anybody. I'm literally just doing this for myself. Because if I was trying to do this as a pattern to like write up, test knit, sell for other people, I would have to be a little more judicious with the way that I did things. But yeah, so we cast on 216 stitches on the US 2s. We did 3 inches of twisted rib, right? So, and I'm going to stand up for this, so enjoy the motion sickness. I'm going to take my little snail tape measure. I'm going to stand up and show you guys something. So what I'm looking for is roughly here-ish, right? That underarm, roughly here-ish, to basically the top of these pants, because I want this to be a cropped fit, which means where my belly button is, which is right here. So roughly 10-ish inches. Oh, sorry. 1 second, I will be back. Sorry. Yes, thank you. So, what I'm working with is from the underarm to the top of the waistline where my belly button is, because I want this to be a crop, and crops usually end at the belly button. We're working with about 10 inches because I'm short. Enjoy that. But so one little trick I do have is I'll actually add a good 1/2 inch, because as an individual who possesses breasticles, I have always found it better to have just the tiniest bit more fabric. You don't have to do several inches. You don't have to, you could do German short rows if you really felt like it. But again, I'm not doing this to impress anybody, and I'm not super concerned with the fit because we're just trying it out. If I was doing this to be a more inclusive fit, or if I was really worried about making sure that this kind of style of pattern could fit every body, then I would do much more work in the way of German short rows and so on and so forth. Now, what I am going to do is just add a good 1/2 inch, because I have broad shoulders and I have breasticles. So I'll need a little bit extra in the way of fabric for the whole length of the sweater. So I'm going to add an extra 1/2 inch and hope for the best, because really 1/2 inch is kind of a lot. It's kind of a lot. It doesn't sound like a lot, but it is kind of a lot. So right now, if I were to do this, let me see if I can get this to kind of just talking into the air. I am sorry. I also love that you capitalized Mike and made it a proper name. Very funny. I think when I measured this before I went live, it was close to 8-ish inches. We'd managed to put 8-ish inches on it. And I'm pretty lazy, so I will do this in the lazy way. But I like to put my tape measure into my knitting, and then go from there and kind of line it up as best as I can and get a feel for how everything is going. This is of course being extra difficult because I'm doing it live with you guys. If I was doing this with no one could see it, it would be super easy. Okay, so that's about it. Yeah, so maybe 8.5 inches, maybe 8. Yeah, maybe 8.5 inches, realistically. And if you want, a lot of people don't care, right? A lot of people come up here and they'll be like, cool, what's this? It's 8 inches, almost 8.5. Great. So, and you missed it, Katie. We were discussing the fact that the last time I was working on the sweater, I was at the cast on. And so in a week, I've managed to put 8-ish inches on it because I'm insane. So right now, we want 2 more inches for sure. Maybe a little bit more. Because we want it to be a crop, but we don't want it to be... We don't want it to ride up. And then we're going to start working back to front, or start working flat, and then we'll knit back left to right, back to front. So, yeah, that's it. And I actually am still trying to figure out where, when I start doing the front of the body, where I'll put the ears, where I want them to start. I'm thinking I want them to start here and then end here. So they might be quite large ears. We're going to see. I don't know how I want them to slope. I don't know anything. So I'll probably end up doing a whole second gauge swatch with my current yarn and my mohair that I'm planning on using to get a good feel of how big they will be, how I want the slope of them to look, and how I need to decrease as I go. All of these words make perfect sense to you, I'm sure. Look at me trying. And then yeah, so this is my other current WIP. Now I actually have a couple of WIPs that I probably won't talk about because they're beyond pile of shame status, honestly. Just being honest. So one that I will talk about that I actually really like. I started it in January and haven't gone back to it though. So I think realistically, I probably won't keep it. I'll probably frog it. Frogging is when you rip something out in knitting, because whenever you rip it out, it makes this like brr, 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 like ribbit sound. So it's called frogging because of the noise it makes. And it's beautiful and intricate, and I love it. And I actually love the style of design, and it's a style I want to use for a design I've had in my head for like years. Yes, we would have a frog. Maybe we need you know what? Maybe we need another frog, like a rain frog or something. And it's, again, this is a stunning knit. I think it's beautiful. It's a great design. It's well designed. It's tiresome. Not tiresome. That's not a kind word or a kind way to describe it. It's involved and excessive, even for me. And I mean, y'all know how I knit. So, but this is it. I started this in January, and is this no, that is the front. I was like, is this the front or the back? I can't remember anymore. And it's gorgeous, and I love it, and I would love to have it as a finished product. It's called the Chrysalis Shawl. However, I know, right? I know. It's beautiful. It's stunning. This is the style like slip stitch right here, and then like this. I want to make a shawl, a Witcher inspired shawl of the wolf emblem. But this alone is a lot of work. So that will be like a super future kind of thing, not inherently a right now thing. And I would have to design it and all of that. But like, it's gorgeous. It knits up. It's like into a beautiful fabric. My concern is actually that my gauge is too tight. Not only that my gauge is too tight, I don't actually think I have enough yarn. So once I started knitting it, I only have these, and I'm like 1/4 of the way through. So I'm pretty sure I need at least another like half of each of these skeins, and they don't make them anymore. So, and even if I could get them from like a D-stash or find somebody else who had them, they likely wouldn't be the exact same like hue if they're not from the same dye lot. So I could get something like this, but it would probably be a completely different shade. It would be the same color, it'd be the same name, it would have the same like dye in it, but it would probably be a completely different shade. And then this, they just don't make anymore. So I haven't been able to bring myself to, music got really sad while I was talking about this, which I think is really funny as well. I haven't been able to bring myself to rip it out, but I also haven't been able to bring myself to, I know, exactly, to keep going on it. Because if I go on it and I get to 3/4 of the pattern and I run out of yarn, I will be furious. And it feels like I have enough. Like I'm looking at it and it looks and feels like I should have enough. But my concern is that I won't have enough and then I'll be furious. This also looks, and I could maybe try a block on it. And if anybody has knit the Chrysalis shawl and they see this, please let me know how it worked out for you. But my great concern is I'm actually knitting way too tight because I feel like I don't have a lot of movement. I don't know if it blocks beautifully maybe. And I could always put it on to said try it on tubing that I showed you guys earlier and give it a good block and see how much it grows. Because from all the pictures I've seen, it's supposed to be a lot bigger than this right now by this point. So like I'm literally 1/4 of the way through and it's barely bigger than my hand, it feels like. Barely. Like, I'm worried I don't have enough. So, it's my current possible frog. My current most shameful pile of shame. That's one of them. Oh, and it's in my Kirby bag that I picked up in Japan from the Kirby Cafe. It is so cute. I'm a big fan. So earlier, and Katie, you just let me know if anything tickles your fancy, honey. So earlier I mentioned that I have a sock knitting machine and it knits tubes. I possess many tubes. I am tube rich. So I've been sitting here basically just holding on to these for so long. Like some of these have literally been tubes for years. Years. It's embarrassing. So I'll go left to right. For all my Doctor Who fans, this is based on the 5th Doctor's scarf. I've had this. This was also knit picks. A lot of these are knit picks, actually. Wait, I might be a liar. These 2 are knit picks, for sure. I know that. And then this one I've had, I don't even remember what this one is called. But these, the nice thing about knit picks is they make like a shorter sock, so you don't end up with like a tube that's 9 feet long. Like these 4 are just massive. You can get like 4 pairs of socks, or not 4, 2 pairs of socks, 4 socks out of them. But these are, if you put in toes, heels, cuffs, you're going to end up with a much more reasonable size sock because this is roughly the style of sock I make by hand. So these 2 I've had for a while and they'll be smaller socks, but they'll be great. And then these 2 are, ooh, what is this called? I forget what this is called. But they're the Arne, I think they're the, no, I'm a liar. These are the Monet sock patterns. So they're self-striping. All of these are self-striping. That's why they get their own little bin. Free feet. But yeah, these are the Monet. This is based on the painting of the hay stacks, I think, if I recall correctly. I don't remember which one this one is. I think it's just a pattern that they made that I've had for so long. And I can't remember. Regia. Nailed it. That took me like a full minute and a half. How many feet of yarn to make socks? Are you proud of yourself? Are you proud of yourself for that? Do you feel good about that? Oh my goodness. But yeah, this is from the Monet collection. I actually have another one from the Monet collection that I haven't knit up yet. But it's, again, it's beautiful. Like you can see how it knits up and it's like this consistent, gorgeous pattern. And it's very abstract because again, it's based on the Impressionist works. And it's just beautiful, but it goes and goes and goes. And so I'm sure that someone out there who knits by hand could. Oh, good. I'm glad. I'm glad you're proud of yourself. Someone needs to be. I'm sure if you knit this by hand, you could probably make it slightly shorter as a tube, but knitting it on the machine, you only have so many stitches. It's mechanical, blah, blah, blah. It's going to come out however you put it in. So I could easily get a pair for me with size 9, who wears a size US 9, and my husband who wears a size US 50. That's a joke. He just has big feet. I could easily get a pair for both of us out of both of these. Like, we could both have a pair. I could have 2 pairs. I've actually done that before. I've made a friend of ours a pair for the husband and wife out of, not this yarn, but a Boba Fett mustache yarns. I made a pair for both of them. And if I'd had any left, I probably would have made one for their daughter. And then this is another one, and I don't remember what the theme of this one was. And I don't have the ball band anywhere. It's gonna make me crazy. I could probably look it up, like the Regia yarn. But again, it's massive. These are also very much like my husband's colors. He likes dark, jewel tone, earthy colors. He wears a lot of gray. But it's beautiful. I've had it forever. There's a little bit of fiber in it still. Or like outside fiber. So this one needs to be made into socks for sure. I feel like they're very, and I don't want to, be super gendered. I feel like they're very boy colors. I feel like a lot of guys would be like, yes, I will wear a sock like that. So these 2 are both Regia. These 2 are both knit picks. Oh, the one's off screen. These 2 are both knit picks. These 2 are both Regia self-striping. And then, last but not least in my self-striping, already knit up collection are these 2. Which I don't remember what they're called, but I know that they're both from West Yorkshire Spinners. And I love them. I've also had them for a long time. But like, I love this super orangey, bright, cutesy tube that this knit up as. I think it's so cute. I love a self-striping yarn. I think they're fun. And then I actually got both of these for my younger sister, or my sister-in-law, as I should call her, legally speaking, because she was learning to knit, and I thought it would be a really helpful thing for her to be able to have like visible progress. So self-striping yarn is great for people who aren't good at maintaining something, or like not good at keeping going because it gets like really boring for them, or they're like, oh, I'm just knitting and knitting and knitting and I can't see anything, it's not doing anything. Self-striping yarn is great for people to kind of like trick themselves into like, ooh, okay, I want to knit up the next color and I want to keep going and I want to do this. So it's good for whenever you're teaching people how to knit something. And socks are a great thing to learn on, even though the yarn and needle is so tiny, because you kind of like, I guess the nicest way I can think to say this is like, you can mess up a sock and no one's going to care. Like, the only person who's going to know you messed up a sock is literally you. The first thing I ever knit, I actually knit for my husband, was a pair of socks. And like, the gusset has like holes in it, and my tension is wonky, and I don't even think they fit his feet. Like, they are so wonky, and he loves them. And he's a big fan. But they are the first thing I've ever knit, and they look like they're the first thing I've ever knit. So, yeah. Are they wonderful? I'm so glad you like them. They're great for winter for sure. They're great boot socks, I will say. Like, if you are wearing boots and you're like, hey girl, I don't want to feel anything in regards to my boots ever, they're the right socks for you. And they're just a plain vanilla sock. Like, there's nothing, they're not special in any way. I wasn't even trying to do anything. I was just trying to knit a sock. And I'm a little ashamed of them, but as you can see, he clearly loves them. I'm not trying to out you as my husband. Calm down, sir. And then I actually really like this one. I think it's so cute. I think it's just pastel rainbow. How do you not like a pastel rainbow? Who doesn't like a pastel rainbow? Like, it's so cute. I should do a collection of like all the socks I've made in the past, because I have so many. I have made so many socks in my lifetime. But yeah, and this is actually, the light is kind of washing it out a little bit. It's actually a little bit brighter than this, but it's extremely cute. I'm a big fan. I like the way it looks. I would probably knit these up for myself if I had what I felt like was the right yarn. But again, I can get 2 pairs out of these. But yeah, so that's my sock tube collection. There's a lot of them. I need to knit them into something, or I need to knit them into socks, I should say. I have also cranked tubes on something and then not used it to make socks. I actually cranked an entire skein of yarn and then turned it into a sweater. Like you do. Just knitting from the tube. And then my last one is actually kind of cheating. This isn't actually knit, this is crochet. But because I don't have anything specific to talk about crochet, and I love how this is turning out, I thought it would be a good idea to show you guys my Granny May blanket. So it's granny squares based on animes I've been watching. And I've actually watched a ton more animes and haven't made any more granny squares because I don't feel like I have the right yarn for it. Which is... it's me being ridiculous, obviously. But this is my Granny May blanket. And these are based on the animes I've watched this year. Starting with... I think... starting with... Frieren, obviously. And like, they're beautiful. Like, they're just gorgeous. And then I don't remember what, I think this was Romance Killer. And then I think this one is, oh, this one was Solo Leveling. I actually have 2 for Solo Leveling, and each 10-gram mini skein made 2 squares, so I've got 2 squares for the blanket for every color. Where is the, oh god, I'm completely off. This was Apothecary Diaries, and it's not really doing it justice in the colors right now, but it's a very pretty purple, kind of based on Jinchi's colors was what I was thinking. And then this one was, I have these all written down somewhere, and now I can't remember what they are. Is it in here? Nope. I don't think so, at least. No. So this one was either... also Solo Leveling? Or something else. I can't remember right now. I feel crazy. This one was for Black Clover, which I started watching. I feel like I can like really tell. And then this one was actually for season 2 of Solo Leveling, because I felt like the color scheme just like drafts so differently. And this was for Haikyuu. Not me talking about anime on a crochet. Oh, and I ran out of, as you can see, they're 2 different sizes because my gauge was completely different. So I just stole from the next line to do this one because I'm insane. And then, oh, this one was Toilet Bound Hanako-san. Or maybe this one was Romance Killer, I can't remember. And then I think this one was Toilet Bound Hanako-san. And then this one is for... oh, no, one of these is Dandadan. It might be this one. This one is for Apothecary Diary Season 2. Oh, it's so beautiful. So beautiful. And then this one was for, oh, frick. God, I feel like we just watched it too. I feel insane. I do this to myself all the time. I'm like, oh, that color, it really like speaks to me. And then I just can't remember what it is. And then I can't remember what it is as I go along. But yeah, I'm gonna see, I know I have notes somewhere for what all of these colors are and what anime they're a part of, or what anime they reminded me of. I have watched so much more anime since this. Like, this is pathetic. Like, oh my God, I've been watching so much this year. This is like all I watch now. This is all I do. It's just like watch anime and harass people. And raise a cat. Why do you have a hair stuck in you? But yeah, so this is not technically knitting. This is technically crochet. And then yeah, that's all of my current WIPs, as embarrassing as they are. And how many I have. And then, actually, I do have something even more embarrassing than WIPs, and that's like next projects planned. Do I wanna? I will, because they're right here. So I'm planning on, you can see from the tiny little needles stuck in this, I'm planning on making a set of socks actually in this color. So this was the Sailor Venus collab I did for whenever I did my Sailor Venus yeah, so I thought Pearl Scout Yarns. We did a collab for my Sailor Venus sweater. She does eco dyeing, and I just think it's so beautiful. It's very Sailor Venus to me. Speaks to me. And I thought it'd be fun because I have 2 very small balls of this left from that collab and from making a sweater and other things for my niece. I thought it'd be cute to have a pair of little socks. And then this, actually I'm planning on doing this, the Sailor Venus socks with little like hearts. My plan is to make a sock with like hearts in the front. Not necessarily, I was thinking cables, like small semi cables, not proper cables, to make the shape of a heart versus like lace, because lace is usually how you make shapes in socks. I think I'm gonna do like a lazy cable instead. And then I just like scoot super in the frame. Sorry, I have a sweater, or not even a sweater, honestly. Not even a sweater. I have a vest in mind, a tank, if you will, called the Mia tank that I've actually already made a version of. So despite this, despite what you may see, I actually usually make like baby sweaters or baby style small things to test my theories and my math. And so this was my first ever brioche design I'd ever done. And I was trying to figure out how to make a v-neck in brioche, and the amount of research I did to try and figure out how to make a v-neck brioche tank top was honestly kind of astronomical and a little embarrassing. Like, it took me forever to figure out how to do a v-neck tank top in brioche because of the way in which brioche knits up, right? So I have these yarns, and again, I've had this yarn for 1 billion years. I don't even know where it came from. I got it from I want to say a knitting like event, like a show, something like that. Yeah, I think I got this from like a show. And then this I've had for ages as well. It's called Painted Churches by Blue Mule Fibers. The issue with me is that I've had so much stuff in stash for so long, and like, you're honestly getting a better like color representation probably on this camera of this like saffrony orangey yellow color. I've had stuff in stash for so long that like I've just lost track. Oh wait, there's a band. Hold on, please hold. I didn't even think that. My own excitement, my own yarn. Okay, this is from Fiber Fanatic. Colorado, New Mexico, Texas. Denton, Texas. Oh, okay. One-offs. Oh, so I couldn't get more of this if I wanted. I actually have 2 skeins of this. Fingering 3-ply 700 yards. That can't be right. Because 4 ounces is usually 100 grams. And a normal skein of yarn is like 400 something yards. Over 400 yards for fingering. That has got to be a typo. There's no way it's 7,000. Right? Yeah. No, that should be lace. Like if this is... It's the Wild West out here, y'all. I mean, it's definitely a little thinner. I don't know if y'all can see that, but it's definitely a little bit thinner than the green. As far as... It's thinner than the green, yeah. Like pulled taut and everything. This might be closer to a lace than a fingering then. Which would be annoying, actually. But also par for the course for my entire life, so... There's like a sticker under this sticker, and I can't tell what it says. Yeah, the sticker under this says 370 yards for 3-ply hand wash. So that's got to be a typo. Yeah, this is the random one that I got from like a booth where the lady was like, oh, normally I spin my own yarn. And I was like, cool. Completely random. It was on like super sale. She's like, I've had it forever because people don't like this color. And I was like, I love this color. But also like saffron, vermilion kind of colors are like, this is one of my favorite colors. Does it match necessarily anything on me, my skin, or what I wear? No. Do I love it? Yes. Do I care? No. Also no. And I think that it'll be enough of a contrast between like the green and the like blue pink kind of vibes of this yarn. Hopefully you guys can see. I think it'll be enough of a contrast between these two, especially with this as my primary color and this is my secondary color. I think it'll be nice. And I'm going to see if I can find the photo actually. Let me see. I don't know where it would be. Because I made it for my niece, and then I sent it off with her, and I don't actually think they've ever sent me... They did send me a photo of her wearing it at one point. But it was like months and months ago, because I got started on this months and months ago. So I don't think I could find it even if I wanted to at this point. But that's okay. It's super cute. It's just a little vest. It's also the project on which I learned how to do one pass brioche, which was rad and super cool, and I will probably not do it again. It made it go super fast, liked it a lot, completely messed with my texture, like completely messed with like the pattern itself, and it didn't look right to me, and no amount of blocking would get that like loose drape I was looking for, because it just made it too tight. Which kind of sucks, but I'm glad that I figured that out kind of preemptively when I was making a baby sweater version, as opposed to having put full adult time into the full adult size to do it like that. Like that would have been rough for me. I don't think I could have handled that. So these are the next things I'm planning on knitting. They're the things that are on that page that I'm like, you know, trying not to get anybody's hopes up about, because we'll see if I ever get around to them. But yeah, so this is really it. Like this little bit here, I have another little ball of this, and then I have leftover scraps from another project that I had an idea for, and like the more it sits around and the more I think about it, the less driven I am to make it, and the less plausible it seems that I'll make it. Because I wanted to do this like pie shawl / round blanket idea that I had that I thought would be super cute, and I had it in these like pastel rainbow colors because pastel rainbow is a thing for me apparently. And I really wanted to do it like that, but I've literally been looking at it for so long at this point that I'm like, I don't know if I want to do that anymore. And that's part of the issue as well with knitters. We all think we want to do something, and then we don't. Oh, I love tea. Tea is an excellent invention. But yeah, so these are the future projects that maybe future Maya will make. And maybe I will get to watch future Maya make them. You know, we could do a whole series on what it's like trying to design in brioche, because I have like 4 or 5 pages in this notebook of just trying to figure it out on like a tiny little baby body. And now, but just trying to figure it out on a tiny little baby body and trying to figure out how to make it work for my size. But we'll see. And now I've got my current project. One of my current projects out for you guys to see. Kids do have really strange proportions, and so I was trying to make it as blob-like. It's like the nicest way I could think to put it, as diaphanous as I could, because kids do have strange proportions and they grow in strange ways at strange times. And so for me, I was just trying to make it as like accommodating as possible. And so for it to end up super tight was kind of disappointing, honestly. But yeah. So I'm just gonna keep on keeping on. Knitting my, oh, where do you, oh, you go in the sock ball. In the sock yarn. That's where you go. Try the close up of my nose, everybody. Yeah, we're coming up on 3 p.m. for me. So I think I'm gonna call it here. I hope you all have a wonderful day. I hope you're all enjoying whatever it is that you're knitting on. I hope I could inspire you to start knitting and to start doing some things with some fiber. And I will see you next time. Bye.